So we're going to learn today about people who are what we call assertive. And I'm going to write that up here. You might be wondering why I've got a picture of a seal here, but that will soon become evident. We're going to be talking about people who are assertive. Now, some people have taken assertive to mean something that it really isn't. Assertive is not aggressive, and assertive is not pushy or bullying. It's somewhere in the middle of being aggressive on the one hand, at one extreme, and at the other extreme being passive. And we probably all know people in that in three of those three categories. Let's just move that over there, I think. That's better. So it's in the middle of the two. We all know people who are aggressive. They're bullying, they yell, they order people around. Sometimes they can get physically aggressive. Sometimes they can be verbally aggressive. Let's make that a little smaller, shall we? So they can be physically aggressive, and they're very unpleasant, but they can also be verbally aggressive. They can always use their voice to boss people around, and some people can be emotionally aggressive, can be manipulative, and use emotional blackmail to get what they want. But they're all examples of people being aggressive. Passive people, on the other hand, are pushovers. They will do what everyone asks them to do. They won't stick up for themselves. They are often the victim of bullies. Don't stick up for themselves, and are quite often victims of bullies. And there's a really strong example of that on YouTube, where a boy was victimized, bullied for a long time because of his weight, and one day he just cracked. He went from being passive, from the boy who just put up with everything and didn't say anything, didn't stand up for himself, until one day he had enough and he picked up the boy who was bullying him and did a bit of a wrestling move, threw him on the ground. A very dangerous thing to do. He was very lucky that the other boy didn't die as a result. So he went straight from passive, being a pushover, to aggressive, being physically violent. And I can guarantee you, he wasn't very happy. He was putting up with people mistreating him, and he wasn't sticking up for himself. So I guarantee you he wasn't happy in that situation. Also, I guarantee you that when he was being aggressive, he probably didn't feel all that good about himself either. So luckily he didn't. But I can guarantee you also that if he'd taken this assertive position, if he'd been assertive in that situation, he would have felt really good, because there's nothing quite as good as feeling assertive, as being assertive. The feeling you get from being assertive is really something to behold. It's a very liberating and very empowering feeling to have, and it also helps you build really good relationships with other people. So all over, it's a good thing. So this is all very well. Let's move that out of the way here, so that we can get a bit more space to work out. Not going to fit that, am I? Let's make that a little bit smaller. These are the wonders of technology. Let's make this smaller. So close. Let's make this smaller, like that. There we go, and put it in the bottom. And let's see what this seal here has got to do with an ing. Now, he's a seal, this bloke, and I've named him Neal. And you guessed it, his name stands for something. He is Neal the Seal, and his name stands for a very important process that we can use to be assertive. Neal starts with N. The very first step in being assertive is, when you are speaking to somebody, is to name it. This is the very first step, and it's a very important step. When someone's doing something to us that we don't like, which is when we really most need to be assertive, someone's being annoying to us, someone's picking us, someone's doing something we don't like, the first thing we need to do is name it to them. So, for example, we would, if someone was kicking our chair when we're listening to a lecture or in class, and we found that annoying, we would need to say something about what that person is doing that we don't like. We would need to name it. Now, the easiest way to do this is to start with a sentence like this. When you ... So in the example of someone kicking my chair, a very assertive thing to say would be, hey mate, when you kick my chair like that, and that's it. You've just named it. That's all you have to do. It's that simple. Now, on its own, that's not going to solve anything, but it's a very good place to start. And if we don't start there, it can often go wrong. Now, the couple of rules here about what makes this work. Well, I hate the word rules, but there's a couple of things that we need to include in this name it to make it worthwhile. Some things that we should do and some things we shouldn't do. What we should do for sure is we should just say what the action is. Not make it a judgment, not criticize, not tell them that, that I really hate it, not tell them to stop, not say it's a horrible thing to do, not tell them you make me feel angry when you do that. That'll come later. Or a better way of doing it will come later. But in this first step, it's just to name what they're doing. So when you are kicking my chair like that, you've solved it. That's all you have to do. Now the next step starts with E, and this is actually a double E. Ooh, wrong colour. Let's go back to our blue. Thank you. And the second step is simply to express our emotions. Tell the person how we feel. So if we were going to use an example of this, now these are just suggestions, you don't have to use these exact words, but this is a good place to start if you haven't done this before. It's a good way to get this thing going, then you can use your own words later. So when you kick my chair like that, that's the naming part. Now I'm going to express my emotion. I feel blah blah blah. Now I don't really feel blah blah blah. I feel something else, but you can tell the person what it is that you feel. For example, I would find someone kicking my chair very annoying. So I would simply say, mate, when you kick my chair like that, I feel really annoyed and I have trouble concentrating. So when you kick the chair, I feel annoyed. You've done the second step. You're halfway there. Neal the Seal is half finished. There's a couple of rules for that too. Saying how you feel is not telling the person that they make you feel, because that's sort of blaming them. Expressing how you feel is just saying I feel, not you make me feel angry or you really annoy me, because that's a little bit attacking, that's a little bit aggressive, and that quite often will lead to the other person getting their back up and retaliating or defending themselves, and that often doesn't end well. So it's expressing our emotion with just an I statement. I feel, not you caused me, I feel annoyed. That's my problem because I'm feeling it. Now the third step, and we go back to blue, the third step is again non-judgmental, and it's not being a bully. It's simply, I might choose a paintbrush. What do you think? That might help. There. No, come on. Paintbrush. Here we go. There we go. The third step is really straightforward as well. It's ask for a specific change. Now notice it's ask. It's not demand or tell them to stop or threaten them, and if they don't stop, they're going to tell the teacher, or if you don't stop, I'm going to hit you back. That's not going to help anybody. You're not asking in that situation. You're telling, or you're demanding, or you're threatening. To be assertive, we need to ask. For example, I have said, when you are kicking my chair like that, I feel annoyed and I can't concentrate. I would just ask nicely, could you please do that? Or could you please move your foot? I don't know about you, but people leaving their foot on my chair and moving it around just reverberates all through my body, and I find it really annoying and very distracting. So I would say, could you just please move your foot? And I'm not threatening, I'm not demanding, I'm not being a bully, but I'm also not putting up with it. I'm not being a wimp or a pushover and just putting up with something I don't like because I'm too frightened to say what I mean, what I feel and what I want. So I've asked for a specific change. Could you please not do that? Now the last one is a little bit optional. You don't really have to do this in every situation, but it's not a bad thing to do. And it says to, here I go again, I've forgotten to put the brush on. I don't know what's wrong with me today. Here's one here. Is to list the benefits. To both you and the person that you are asking. So we go back to our red ink and we'll have an example of what sort of language you can use. When you are kicking my chair like that, I feel annoyed. Could you please not do that? Could you please move your foot or move your feet? And I'm now listing the benefits, and then I will feel relaxed. Or I might say, and then I'll be able to concentrate, and I'll be able to concentrate. Or whatever the benefits might be. Now you might want to put in here, I can't think of one here at the moment, but if there was some benefits to the other person, you might want to list them as well. So you might want to say something like, and then we can both concentrate, because you want to give an incentive, give a reason for the other person to do what you want, so there's some benefit in it for them, and we can both concentrate on this fascinating lesson we're getting from our teacher. As I said, this is sort of optional. A lot of cases you won't need to say this last one, but the first three steps are really important, and I do them every time. I don't always do the list one, but I certainly always do NEA. So the first thing is, name it. When you are kicking my chair like that, I feel annoyed. I'm finding it hard to concentrate. Could you please not do that? Now that's the formula to use. You don't have to use those exact words, and if sometimes it sounds a little bit rehearsed if you're doing it that way, but it's a good way to learn to start with. But eventually you'll get really good at this, and you'll be able to just come up with your own words. In most cases now, when my children are annoying me, not students, because students are so good they don't annoy anybody. Yeah, right. When my children are annoying me, like they're making slurping noises when they're eating a lollipop when I'm trying to watch my TV show, I'll just look at them and say, Bridie, could you please not do that? So I've gone from, I haven't named it, and I haven't told her how I feel. I've just asked for a specific change. Can you please not do that? She knows what I'm talking about. She knows it annoys me, so I don't have to go through those steps. So as I've gotten better at this, I can jump a couple of steps, and I've used my own language. But when you're learning this formula, these comments in red are a very good place to start. So Neal the Seal shows us how we can be assertive. We can be assertive and not be aggressive and not be passive, not be a bully and not be a wimp or an early pushover, to be an assertive, good communicator. And we do this because people who are assertive are much happier, have better relationships, do better in life, and schools that have lots of assertive people in it have far fewer fights and are a better place to come. So remember that. Neal the Seal. I'll see you in the next video.